Sir Stanley Matthews is an icon of a lost era. Black and white newsreels, belching chimney stacks, terraced streets, workers pouring out of factory gates, an era, as one comedian might describe it, synonymous with jumpers for goalposts. For a young man with talent, the fastest route out of these pre-war cliches was sport. Stanley Matthews signed on at Stoke City, his local club, aged 14. He was in the first team at 17 and was playing for England at 19. He had the talent in abundance. Strange as it now seems, doubts surrounded his ability, or at least his effectiveness, from the outset. He played in the so-called Battle of Highbury in 1934, when England beat Mussolini's flag wavers and the then world champions, Italy. It was a vicious and sour game that reflected the politics of the time. And even though England won, Matthews' critics said he hadn't been muscular enough, nor committed enough for the rough and tumble of international football. His England career had had its first question mark placed against it. Well, he was still playing 10 years later, but the war had moved from Highbury to encompass the world, including his hometown of Stoke.
At Stoke-on-Trent, the King and Queen visit a large pottery works. A happy occasion for the work people, who give their majesties a real Stoke welcome.
The King and Queen were also present to see Stoke's favourite son orchestrate the destruction of international sides on the football field.
Good footwork by Matthews, England's outside right, carrying the ball to the Welsh goalmouth.
By now, Matthews was a media darling. His skill, allied to his innate humility, had made him a hero, and he put thousands on the gate wherever he appeared.
The scoreboard tells the history of dazzling forward play, which has seldom been equalled.
For some reason, and to the consternation of the Scottish supporters, he reserved many of his finest performances of this period for the old enemy.
Cataloguing the goals, we start off with Hagan opening the score for England. 60,000 thirsty throats were heard all over Manchester as Stanley Matthews, the wizard of dribble, planted a free kick on Lawton's head and the ball went in for number 2. The white-shirted English players were right on top of form. No opposition could stand up to the speed and punch of their forwards. Third goal came in a smashing kick from Carter.
At this time, he was stationed near Blackpool, serving with the RAF, and was guesting for the local team. This connection would bear fruit some years later, when the war was over.
Shouts the crowd and Lawton slams in another one. Now Scotland knows how Wales felt at Wembley. 11 weary Scotsmen resigned to their fate. Up came Stanley Matthews, and then there were 8 goals.
Internationally, Matthews and England had reached a peak. Domestically, though, he was dogged by bad luck in the oldest cup competition of them all, the FA Cup.
First talking point from this year's revived FA Cup came from the Spurs-Stoke soccer battle. Press critics started the argument by panning Stanley Matthews. They said he played a poor game and Spurs defender Ronnie Burgess was too much for him. Pathé cameras saw it differently. Here is Matthews, number 7 in stripes. And just watch him go. The man with the magic feet is still England's outside right number 1.
The next year, he was a Blackpool player.
Score at 2-2. Blackpool are again on the attack. Stanley Matthews, who has been shut out effectively, beats Manchester's Johnny Aston, but the Seasiders finishing his tour. Charlie Mitten,
He had transferred for the bargain price of £11,500, but he was 34, and surely didn't have many years left in the game. His luck in the FA Cup continued to be poor.
Their 4-2 victory, snatched in the last few minutes, gives Manchester United the reward they richly deserve.
He did, however, have the consolation of being named the inaugural British Footballer of the Year.
Streamline Stanley, turning on speed that would do a sprinter credit, plays perhaps the greatest game in his career. It's from his centre that Johnny Hancock scores goal number 2. And it's Matthews again. What a player. Without doubt the greatest winger of all time.
In 1949, Matthews was 35 years old.
In the attack, old-timer Stanley Matthews is having a lean day. Two defenders mark him non-stop, and Billy Steele is there to help them out.
And England were considering alternatives for his position. But the strongest case for including him came when they left him out.
It's a great day for the Irish. At Goodison Park, 50,000 see the soccer sensation of the season, England's first ever home defeat by a foreign team. Pathé Sports cameras tell the full story of how 11 men from Era upset the white shirts of England. With goalie Williams and his defenders facing early bombardment, the golden-lined England team failed to find their feet. Brilliant players that we know them to be, they shed their skill with the sun and turn a vital international into a kick-and-rush hurly-burly. Man of the match is veteran Johnny Carey. His shrewd pass signals Era's first goal. Peter Desmond is tripped in the forbidden area, and Scottish referee Mowat blows up for a penalty. The Goodison crowd is hushed as Con Martin takes the kick. Only just over the line. Portsmouth's Peter Harris starts off an all-out England attack in the second half. But there's no one there to finish off the promising approach play. Pye, Mannion, Morris, they've all left their shooting boots in the dressing room. The crowd sighs for a Lawton or a Matthews to show them how. Inspired by their one-goal lead, Era profit from some lucky escapes and draw still further ahead when Everton's Peter Farrell slams in number 2. The England forwards keep plugging away, but Lady Luck favours the Irish. Say the critics to the selectors, how about bringing back Lawton and Matthews? Blackpool are keeping up the pressure. One goal is
In 1951, Blackpool beat Birmingham in the semi-finals.
clears, but the ball goes to left winger Perry, 40 yards out. A brilliant run through the defence, and he shoots.
He was in the final of the FA Cup once again.
Blackpool 2, Birmingham 0. And
Neutrals everywhere were willing him on to a winner's medal, a prize for his overall contribution to English football.
Matthews again. He's trying every trick he knows to get Blackpool going. Even the Newcastle side wish he could have a cup winner's medal so long as they win.
It wasn't to be. Then 2 years later, in 1953, the jinx was broken in one of Wembley's most legendary contests. This match has been known ever since as the Matthews Cup Final, something he himself found excruciatingly embarrassing.
Bolton have looked the better team right the way through the first half. In the Blackpool goal, Farm faces a shot from Langton. He and Lofthouse miss, and there's another one. Bolton are 2, Blackpool still 1. Into the second half, and Blackpool begin to show some of the skill we expect of them. Stan Matthews is after it, and off he goes with a dazzling display that proves he's as good as ever he was. As he centres, Mortensen gets out of the way to let Perry shoot, but it's wide of the net. Now the Wanderers get their forward machine moving again. From the right wing, Douglas Holden centres, and despite his injury, Eric Bell heads it in for Bolton's third goal. 3-1, looks all over for Blackpool. As unworried as ever, Matthews sends over a beautifully placed centre. Goalkeeper Hansen tries to check it, but Stan Mortensen forces it in. Bolton 3, Blackpool 2. Mortensen's hurt his right leg, but wild horses couldn't keep him off the pitch at this stage of the game. Douglas Holden leads the Wanderers on an offensive. Up near the goal mouth, Lofthouse gets on with the good work. Lofthouse centres, but goalie Farm is there to deal with the situation this time. His clearance upfield sets his teammates on another attack. There's a foul. One of the players took quite a knock, and the ref awards Blackpool a free kick. Mortensen takes it. He's done it. It's in. Blackpool and Bolton are on even terms with 3 goals apiece. Matthews again, giving the game everything he's got. In the Bolton goal, Hansen gets ready for work. The great little wizard has it again. A flick to centre finds Perry, who crashes it home into the Bolton net. Blackpool 4, Bolton 3. There's no doubt about it now. Matthews, recently ignored by the England selectors, is the man of the match. What a great reception he gets from all at Wembley as the whistle goes. Matthews in his third cup final is the hero of the day. Her Majesty the Queen rises to greet the two teams and to award the cup. And here come the winners, gallant Blackpool, who turned what seemed defeat into one of the most dramatic victories ever seen at Wembley. Their captain, Harry Johnston, receives the most coveted football trophy of them all. A royal congratulation for Stanley Matthews and a winner's medal at long last are fitting rewards for the most dazzling sportsman in world soccer. The Queen waves a last farewell to the crowds as Harry Johnston and Stanley Matthews take the cup to Blackpool.
11 men come back to Blackpool to one of the greatest welcomes ever recorded a football team. Yes, they're the Blackpool boys who won the match of the century at Wembley against Bolton Wanderers. Heading towards the tower, the procession continues its triumphal journey. 100,000 loyal fans give a cup winner's reception to Harry Johnston and his team. But there's a special cheer for man of the match, Stanley Matthews. The coach arrives at Blackpool's town hall, and 15,000 people surge forward for a closer glimpse of their heroes. Harry Johnston, complete with cup, is followed by Matthews and the rest of the gallant 11 to the gaily decorated town hall, where the mayor makes an official speech of welcome and congratulates the team on their magnificent achievement. The crowd roars for Matthews, at long last a holder of a cup winner's medal. Modestly, he replies.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like my name to be associated with Harry, and I do want to say what a wonderful reception you have given us. And I also want to say that I'm told that by one or two people that I was the match winner. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that for the simple reason we have the 11 match winners.
Already, the team have vowed to do their darndest next year to keep the cup in Blackpool.
In that same year of 1953, the international team received a dramatic shock. It came from an unexpected quarter. Hungary were plotting England's downfall.
England in white shirts take the field with their Hungarian opponents at Wembley. 100,000 people put up the houseful notice as the visitors, recognized as the best side in Europe, immediately swing to the attack. Hidikuti receives and he bangs it past Merrick for a goal. Hungary 1 up in the first 45 seconds. The Hungarian captain slips it over to Hidikuti, who shakes the net with goal number 2. Now Hungary are really in their stride. Puskas, with superb control, crashes in yet another. 3-1 to the visitors. Alf Ramsey has it. He draws the defence before flicking it to Matthews on the wing. The little wizard whips it into the centre, where Mortensen gives Grosics a spot of work. Mortensen to Jackie Sewell, and as cool as they come, he bangs it into the visitors' net for the equaliser. But don't make any mistake, these Hungarians didn't win the Olympics final or their second-to-none reputation for nothing. Here they go again, with some of the most perfect teamwork ever seen on the green grass of Wembley. And Bosic takes a free kick, and Puskas finishes the job. 4-1 now. But now Sewell takes command, teaming up with Maestro Matthews. Rob's header sends Grosic sprawling to save. That's the stuff to raise English hopes. But it's Stan Mortensen's low drive that chalks up another one on England's account. 2-4 it stays up to half-time. But that's not good enough for Hungary. Centre-half Laurent is after it. Laurent returns to the centre. Puskas has it. Puskas to Coxis, whose header hits the post. From the wing, Bosic races it and cracks home Hungary's 5th goal. But the massacre isn't over yet. Hidikuti, already scored 2, makes it a hat-trick. England, down but not out, come back to try and crack Hungary's Iron Curtain defence. Leading the attack is human dynamo Stan Mortensen. But Grosix brings him down. The Dutch referee won't stand for rugby tactics, so it's a penalty to England. Alf Ramsey takes it, and it's in the net! And that's how it stays up to the finish. By 6 goals to 3, Hungary, the most brilliant team ever to visit Britain, shatter the unbeaten home record England has held in 90 years of football.
English football was in crisis. A long period of soul-searching followed.
Managers gathered from all over the country. With Sir Stanley Rouse, the FA chairman, they were to thrash out the whole problem. But sad to relate, little seems to have been done since. The managers, say some critics, put cash before country. But business is business, and they can hardly be blamed for not cutting the league programme to allow their stars to train for the English team. Few players, with the exception of masters like Matthews, combine individual skill with the ability to work with a team of comparative strangers. So that kind of training is vital. Finney to Brodis, who crashes it in for England's first goal.
On the right wing, the embarrassment of riches that was Matthews and Finney had created a problem for some years. The pub experts argued that Finney was a better goal scorer, but Matthews, others argued, was a better crosser of the ball. But Matthews can't head it, was the rejoinder. But why does he need to? When he's out on the wing, came the reply. The argument was settled when Finney moved to the other side of the pitch, as he was more comfortable on the left than Matthews. They were both accommodated.
But Tom Finney's soon bringing it back again. He beats Alec Parker. He centres, and Bobby Charlton runs in for a magnificent goal. A royal investiture at Buckingham Palace. And here to be created a Commander of the Order of the British Empire is Stanley Matthews, with his wife Betty and his daughter Jean. Once before he received a medal from the Queen, at the finest match of his career, the 1953 Cup Final, when Her Majesty saw him lay the foundations of Blackpool's victory over Bolton. Here he is, wriggling through to place the ball neatly at Mortensen's feet for a brilliant goal. And here, the greatest right-winger football has ever seen makes the pass which won the cup for Blackpool. The maestro of soccer is still unbeaten, at an age when most professional footballers have retired for years. And though this may have been his finest moment, when he won his only Wembley medal, it was but the highlight of a brilliant career. Few would deny that Stanley Matthews is the best-loved sportsman of our time. And this royal honour endorses the public esteem which has long been his. A proud spectator is Stanley Matthews Jr., and we all join him in congratulating a great footballer and a fine man. "25 years in football."
Honour was heaped upon honour in the autumn years of his playing career.
The National Sporting Club gathers to honour Stan's quarter century. Charles Forty acts as host. John Charles is among the guests, and so is Jim Laker and other great figures from every field of sport.
Stanley Matthews was now officially a national treasure, and yet retirement seemed the furthest thing from his mind, especially since in 1956 he'd been named the European Footballer of the Year.
Tommy Trinder voices what everyone is thinking.
May I say, it's been one of my greatest privileges to see you as a footballer, to meet you as a man, and tonight, in front of millions of people, be here to say thank you for everything you've done for football and sportsmanship. God bless you.
The National Sporting Club has a present for the grand old man of soccer, a magnificent cocktail cabinet, which Charles Forty opens for Stanley's inspection. And as for being the grand old man of soccer, Stanley has a few words to say about that himself.
My lords and gentlemen, I feel somehow I'm going to lose my reputation tonight. You've heard Tommy Trinder. He's a comedian. He's a director of Fulham Football Club. I feel out of place as Fulham would be if they're in the First Division. You know, sometimes I'm called old man of soccer. I am a little thin on top, but really I'm not that old. I'd like to thank you for the wonderful present you have presented me. My lords and gentlemen, I thank you.
His fame had stretched beyond the narrow boundaries of England. He was an acknowledged legend wherever the game was played and spent a long time coaching the up-and-coming football nations.
In case you hadn't noticed, it's not Blackpool he's playing for this time. The scene is Accra Stadium, and his teammates are the Hearts of Oak, Ghana's leading side, with whom the maestro is making an exhibition tour of the new West African state. Stanley meets the Prime Minister, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and presents his team. No question of Stanley being a fish out of water, for these young men of Ghana are very promising footballers. Stan himself is in fine form. Over the bar, but never mind, in a few minutes Stanley's back again, as slippery as ever. A teammate grabs the pass, the goalie runs out, but he dodges him and the goal's wide open. All the spectators are cheering for Stanley, the uncrowned king of soccer. Uncrowned? The Hearts of Oak soon put that right, with a proper coronation on a chief's throne of carved mahogany, with an ivory scepter of office, which he can take home with him to prove it all really happened. Julius Caesar never had it so good as this.
The great Pele once said of him, "He taught us how the game should be played." Later adding, even in Brazil, the name Matthews had the aura of magic. In 1961, Stan was back at Stoke.
Overnight, down in the mouth, Stoke City were transformed. Stanley Matthews was back with the club, and shoals of telegrams left him in no doubt about his welcome. What a tonic for Stoke, near the bottom of Division 2, that Mr. Football was home again. And what a game.
In a £2,500 deal, he sent attendances through the roof and presided over their return to the top flight. The move to Blackpool, all those years earlier, was forgiven. In 1963, aged 48, he was Player of the Year yet again.
Those familiar moves initiated from the right were sure to pay off when the game settled down. 46-year-old Stan was soon giving the Huddersfield defence the biggest run around they've had this year. There wasn't a shadow of the old gloom left on Stoke City ground. He laid on a perfect chance, the ball went to the Huddersfield net, and there it was. He'll be playing when he gets the old age pension.
In 1965, more honours, as he became the first footballer to be made a Knight of the Realm.
There's an investiture, and among the people honoured by the Queen is Stanley Matthews. But no longer a mere mister. He's Sir Stanley, first professional footballer to be made a knight. And if this is his last season, all First Division left-backs are overjoyed. Wonder how many autographs he's signed since he began his astonishing career. Congratulations to a jolly good fellow, say all of us. And here with him,
That year finally did see his retirement from the game at an incredible 50 years old.
On the same day, he went to Stoke Football Ground to give the crowd their last look at those twinkling feet. At this club, he began as a professional in 1932. He was preparing now to play in the Matthews 11 versus world stars, who came from 7 countries to pay the kind of tribute he appreciated. Quite on the bench beside Di Stefano from Spain.
All the greats of world football came to the Victoria Ground to salute him.
Puskas, also from Spain. Di Stefano again. And inside right, Kubala, Spain too. In goal, Yashin, Russia. Mazopust, Czechoslovakia. The great Stan himself had his pre-game massage for more than the 1,000th time. Puskas interrupting. Jimmy Greaves played in the Matthews 11, so did Johnny Haynes. The fullbacks Cohen and Thompson with Flowers and Douglas. On the empty ground where his career began and ended, what poignant moments now. He remembers those Wembley cheers in the historic final, the Matthews final 12 years ago.
For years afterwards, He complained that he'd given up too early. He had a brief flirtation with management up the road at Port Vale, but it ended in tears after an FA fine of £2,000 was levied on the club over alleged illegal payments to players.
We never expected anything like the severity which we've just experienced. As I've said previously, we're absolutely shocked and appalled. Nothing else to say.
Are you going to appeal, Mr. McPherson?
We may consider this at a later date.
And what's the position of Sir Stanley?
The position of Sir Stanley at the moment, that he feels quite justifiably, after being a sporting ambassador of this country for over 30 years, he's deeply concerned about these findings.
Disillusioned, he retreated from the game in England. He moved to Malta. All things change, and even his beloved Victoria ground was demolished. But he was there as guest of honour when Stoke opened their new ground, the Britannia Stadium. He'd always led a strict and disciplined life. A teetotaler, he was years ahead of his time when it came to fitness, especially in his adherence to a strict dietary regime. Not for him the pie and a pint culture that had ruled British football. But even he couldn't go on forever. 1996 saw the first evidence of his failing health.
The former England soccer star, Sir Stanley Matthews, has been admitted to hospital in Stoke-on-Trent suffering from chest pains. He's said to be in a comfortable condition.
After the death of his second wife, Mila, he went into a severe decline. With his immaculate timing still intact, he soared in the new millennium and died on the eve of an England international at Wembley on February 23rd in the year 2000. He was 85. The debate about whether he would have survived in the modern game is a redundant one. He was the greatest of his era, and that is all anyone can be. There are great wingers in the game today, of course, but their job is a different one. They must tackle back and cover prodigious amounts of turf, and all this on top of their offensive duties of crossing and scoring. But in full, glorious flight, they remind us all that regardless of the rewards of the modern game, it is still for the love of that game that they play. The same reason that he did. And the same reason that the rest of us keep watching.